your human life value and your body's value is based on your ability to produce. Based on your ability to work. And we know this because you get a disability check until you go back to work. Then all of a sudden, you're not disabled anymore, which is bullshit. We are still disabled. So,
well, those in the United States, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, cool, you can go back to work now? Guess you're not disabled anymore. And it's like, no, I still am. Still broken, still disabled, still injured, still have to use a wheelchair to get along, still got mobility issues. Just because I can produce doesn't mean I'm not disabled anymore. But that's according to the U.S. government and according to Social Security disability. That is the fact. It is the matter of the fact, like fact of the matter. So that's, and I think same thing with like, that's why we also low key hate fat people is like, you know, whether it's a disability that makes you large or if you are large and become disabled because you are large, either way, you are seen as lazy, as unproductive, as undisciplined. You know, oh well, all of our government insurance is going to these people's medical bills and all this and all that, and it just, I think it has to do. It's a scary side effect of capitalism. It's just an unfortunate reality that if the second you cannot produce, your human life is worth less and your body's value is worth less. So it's very hard to be like, I am prideful that I cannot work, when we live in a society that says if you don't work, you're worthless. How many times when you meet someone new, the very first question, what do you do? Always, what do you do? We're interested. We want to compare our lives to your life. We want to know how you produce based on how I produce. It's this whole, you know, capitalistic mentality of value-based human life based on production value.
Yeah, I mean, because I've thought about this a lot of like, I think there's a large group of people that I don't know really exactly how to put it, but like, I might not say this the right way, but there's a group of people that like to reap the benefits of capitalism, but also preach against it by saying like kind of what you're saying. And like, I would say like the world is a harsh, cruel place. Like we are very soft because of the things that our society and our ancestors have done to build up our country. I mean, like, think about if you're listening to this podcast right now, you are more privileged than a lot of people on earth and a lot more privileged than people in the past.
Because that means you've got an internet connection, a phone, probably a computer.
Maybe you're listening on headphones.
A place to live. You got technologies. Like
bottom line, you have an internet connection. Like that's really...
That alone. Yep.
And the thing is I think that we forget that the reason why we have these things is because people have been consistently bringing value to the marketplace. I think people rag on, landlords, and people rag on business owners, and they're like, well, landlord, like I saw recently someone talking shit on landlords, and they're like, being a landlord is not an employment type situation. It is simply an investment type situation, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. You're not an employee if you're a landlord. There's responsibilities you have to have.
If you're a landlord, you own that property.
Exactly.
You're a real estate investor. That's a part of the income stream of investing in that real estate is having tenants that pay you money. Well, they're
basically people are angry that they're like, well, I'm stuck in this like cycle of like consistently paying rent because I don't have enough money to like go out and buy a house. But like because of the current system, like
I would argue that's
landlords.
I would argue that's bullshit because most people can get a mortgage for half the cost of their rent.
I would argue that is bullshit too, but people don't want to downgrade. Like they'd rather just like rent something that's like, you know what I mean? Anyways, this is the kind of the point I'm making is like, the value that you can bring to the marketplace is directly associated to how much like money you can make. And unfortunately, we have as a society and as a world, we've evolved past bartering and, like I'll trade you this gold for this. Like we have adopted a system that whether we like it or not, is run by money. And a lot of it is a number on a screen. I'm not even arguing to you. I'm just saying like in general, it is really hard to, I guess, roll some of that back because I think rolling some of it back would mean losing a lot of things. Like, for example, if we were if everyone, if we moved away from more of a capitalist society and moved more towards something else, I don't know. Like it at that point we're kind of like tearing the very fabric of like society.
I am not
and we
anti-capitalist in any way. I'm just pointing out some flaws.
Yeah,
that's it.
And
yeah.
so
I think that's why it's hard to have pride in something, because you are prideful of the fact that you cannot produce the way other people can.
Well, I don't even necessarily know if that's what you're prideful of. I think the disability pride would more come from accepting yourself. Like, I don't necessarily know, like for example, I remember listening to a podcast with a guy that was gay, and he was saying that yes, he is like proud to be gay, and yes, he has accepted that he's gay and all that, but like he's like, if I could have it any other way, I'd just rather be straight because it would just be easier. Like life would be literally easier, but I can't help the fact that I am attracted to men. I'm not ashamed of that fact that I'm attracted to men, and I'm not ashamed of being with men. But if I could like choose at birth, like it's literally like living life on easy or hard mode. You know what I mean? It's like, do you want to go down this route that's going to be like your parents might ostracize you. You're going to be ridiculed maybe by like people in school, blah, 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 all these things. Or would you choose choosing to be born with a disability or not at birth? Mm-hmm. Like a lot of people would probably would choose to just choose the able-bodied version because it's just easier. Like no one's asked for any of this, and it is the thing that makes life hard. But at the same time, I think the pride comes from the acceptance of it, not being prideful that you can't work. Like, look at me, I'm over here not working.
No, I'm just saying, I'm agreeing with you, but I'm saying the mentality is people that are disabled don't know what disability pride is because they know what disability has done to them, and they don't think there is anything to be prideful of.
Again, I agree, but I think that the important thing about it is like having the shift of like I bringing it back to the capitalism side maybe, and seeing like, okay, if my worth in society, if we're just accepting that is based on like the value that I can bring to the world,
your production value, basically.
Your production value, even if you are physically disabled or mentally or however you are disabled, like there are still ways that you can be a valuable person.
Absolutely.
100%. And that's like what Wheels to Walking is like kind of all about.
Absolutely.
But I think you've got to get past that, I guess, like in your own head. And it's hard for me to even talk about it because like I will not know, unless there's some sort of tragic accident, I will not know what it's like to live that. So it's very hard for me to just like, say like, oh, well, just change your mindset and like, oh, just think about it this way. Like, it's easier said than done. I understand that.
I've got a solution that I've been thinking about for a very long time, and we're probably going to skip around it because it just parallels to this conversation. Is I believe all jobs are done from the inside out. And what I mean by that is even in your own personal life, like you have to focus on yourself and your core and your innards. And I think about disabled people getting back to work and disabled people finding jobs and opportunities and stuff. And in my opinion, the industry that should be giving them the most opportunities are the industries that serve them. Meaning the catheter companies, the wheelchair companies, the tire companies, the rims companies, like all the people that serve us as disabled people need to also turn around and give us opportunities as disabled people, because they should be aware more than anyone else about how high quality workers we are, how reliable we are, how valuable we are, how good we are at problem solving, how good we are at cultivating relationships. Like being a disabled person, in my opinion, in the workforce is an extreme asset. But unfortunately, people don't see it. Like I think about all the systems that I set up in my own personal life.
But think about like,
and how you can inject those into the systems of other businesses or into your own entrepreneurial venture. Like
was like depressed, like overweight Richard that though? Like
absolutely not.
That's what I'm saying. It's like,
but I wouldn't have gotten there if someone would have given me the opportunity before I got there.
I know, and I agree, and I think like you now are a totally different person. Like I didn't know depressed Richard personally, but like I just know from stories.
Tragic.
But that's what I'm saying. It's like it's very similar to putting like all people of color in one box or all women in one box and just like putting blank, like we need to give more opportunities to this group of people. It's like, yes,
I mean, you still need to vet.
You still need to vet those people.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying is like, I think the reason why maybe some of those, opportunities are not given is because yes, they do. Like, for example, a catheter company, they interact with a lot of people with spinal cord injuries, and they interact with a lot of people that are doing really well for themselves and blah, 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 all this kind of stuff. But then they also maybe do deal with people on the phone that are not that. And so they have a contrasted mentality or whatever. I don't know. Hope you enjoyed that clip. If you want to watch the full episode, you can click right here. If you want to subscribe to the channel, you can click right here. If you want to watch more clips, we got 2 more right over here.